Am I streaming? Am I going? I think I might be. I hope I am at least. Hello, 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 everyone. How are you doing? We'll see if anyone ends up joining us in any of the chats. Yeah, I know I'm about 5 minutes late. It's also an unusual time, but when you haven't done a time slot before, I'm kind of curious as to who's going to show up during this. Chris is going to be here. He had a D&D group that kind of went over, so hopefully he won't be too long. So I kind of went over and started late because I was looking for a little something to talk about to tide us over until Chris and others can get in. I think Agony said he was going to try to join. Actually, I don't know if Agony's a he or she. He's never been in the live stream before, but so maybe we'll meet Agony and maybe we'll see if anyone starts showing up in the chat. So I saw this one. This one's kind of been on the list for a little while, but it just seemed kind of filler. But I don't know if you saw this guy, Galen Windsor. Like in 1982, he did this video where he actually ate some uranium. He was holding it and he had a little bit left on his hand, licked it off his hand, and said he was fine because it's about the dosage that you get. And your body doesn't absorb uranium, it passes through. So if you just have a tiny amount for however long it takes to pass through your body, and that doesn't do you any damage. So like I said, that was back in like 1982, and he died just like back in April, I think, or March or something. Age of 88. So I think you'd, I think you'd be hard pressed to say that, that did him any harm. But the conspiracy theorists, of course, always have their things to say about it. So I am just going to try to reload the YouTube chat first, though, because it gets stuck sometimes. Refresh. Okay, nobody's there yet. All right, so we'll go with Galen Windsor for the time being till people get in. If you're a fan of conspiracy theories and unsolved mysteries, strange and sudden death of Galen Windsor, a controversial figure in the world of nuclear energy, passed away at the age of 88 under mysterious circumstances. Details around the death are unclear, but many believe there may be more to the story than meets the eye. Now, this was posted back in April. I haven't bothered trying to follow up to see if they have an official cause of death, but basically this is one of those cases where nothing shows up on the autopsy. And that just happens from time to time. They do an autopsy, and they're looking around like, Murr. Sometimes that's the result. Autopsies are not magic. They're not like doing a computer diagnostic where it prints out everything. They're not looking at debug code or anything like that. It's just opening up the body, looking around, see what there is. You also do a tox screen and things like that. So, but this is kind of see, this sort of thing happens all the time. People die under mysterious circumstances. Longtime listeners will know because when I did my my attack really on Sylvia Brown, that horrible scam artist who'd pretend to be a psychic and talk to people's dead relatives. One of the couples that just really breaks your heart to see how she was trying to scam them were just so desperate to know what happened to their daughter because she died suddenly and there was nothing on the autopsy. And she tried to tell them that she was shot. You would think that a bullet would show up on the autopsy. You would think. But no, there was this grieving couple looking for answers, and sometimes you don't get them. But that is fertile soil for conspiracy theorists when it happens.
Hey, Shane, can you hear me?
Hey, yes, great to have you in.
Sorry about that. I did not think it was going to go that long. Also, I forgot 2 p.m. for you is 1 p.m. for me, so sorry about that.
Yeah, time zones.
Yeah. Honestly,
No
yeah, I mean, believe it or not, the group's still in roleplay. It's still playing, but it's a boss fight, so I figured, you know what, just the DM knows my character, just take over from me from now on. It happens.
That's cool.
Just
Just to have something to talk about. I was looking at this conspiracy about the death of Galen Windsor. He's the guy back in the 80s that like ate uranium on video to demonstrate that it was safe as long as it was just a tiny quantity, you know. He died earlier this year at age of 88. So.
Oh, he ate uranium, huh?
Yep. Well, just a tiny little trace amount on his hand.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's something that people fail to realize: everything is radioactive.
Well, and also uranium isn't absorbed by the body, so it wasn't like it for however long it took him to pass it through.
Yeah.
It's about not only the amount of radiation but how much time.
Yeah.
And nowadays
like
they do like microsieverts per hour. So.
Yeah. I mean, like if I recall correctly, the cases of radiation sickness that occur, that's because it's the radiation, not the material itself.
Yeah, well, the radioactive material is just emitting radiation all the time. But, how long are you in contact? How much of it is and how long are you in contact with it? And so since he lived to 88, you can't really say that. But it's one of those cases that I was just explaining. We've talked about this before. Cases where they do an autopsy and nothing shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go, his sudden death under mysterious circumstances. And
yeah,
that's kind of the whole conspiracy theory.
I mean, the guy's 88.
Yeah, I mean, old age. It happens. But it was found in his home with no signs of forced entry. Initial reports suggested that he may have died of natural causes, but some have raised questions about the circumstances of his passing. Who? Who are these some? They even say rumors have circulated. Yeah, so they're actually saying it's rumors. That Windsor may have been targeted for his outspoken views on nuclear energy, while others believe there might have been a couple. So if they were going to, like I said, he's been doing this since the 80s, and he's been retired. He's been out of the public eye. If they were going to assassinate him for his views on nuclear energy, why would they wait until now to do it?
Yeah. I mean, the cat's already out of the bag,
Yeah.
Speaking of which, have you ever heard of
Windsor may have been silenced to prevent him from revealing classified information about nuclear energy, things like that.
Have you ever heard of that one conspiracy about, I forgot her name, there was that one woman who, she died in a car accident, but she was an outspoken critic of nuclear safety protocols, and everyone insists that she was killed by the nuclear energy company?
I had not heard that.
Yeah.
And we have a chat over on Rumble, but it's not fitting on the screen. Hang on. Okay, it's Fighting Zenithian again. It says, "Hi guys, I'm back and wanted to know what are your thoughts on Jessica Pishko?" And he links to sheriffs.substack.com. I don't know who she is.
Jessica Sheaf what?
Pishko, Pishko. And it's that sheriffs.substack.com. And he says, excellent point on the Galen Windsor conspiracy theory. For every conspiracy theory that's been proven, there are hundreds that are easily debunked. Yep, that's how it goes. But it's just, that's pretty much all it is. I've covered all the major points. It's just rumors say, ooh, was he targeted? Yeah, if they were going to get him for that, they would have got him long ago.
Yeah.
And any classified secrets he knew about it would have been obsolete like decades ago.
Yep.
Oops, sorry, wrong one. There we are. Trying to get the YouTube chat back. No one is in YouTube yet. Or it's frozen. Hang on. I can never trust this YouTube chat. No, I'm not seeing anything. Well, we are clearly on Rumble, so we are live. I don't know. Let's see. Are we actually streaming on YouTube?
As for Jessica Pishko, I have no clue.
I mean, it looks like I'm going. Yeah, it's hard on a live stream if you ask us a question about something we don't know anything about because we can't like stop and research it because that's like dead air.
Yeah.
And he's giving us lots of links as usual, like I usually do afterwards. I'll just copy all of this and paste it into a text file and kind of go through it and see if there's anything interesting that's worth covering.
Yeah.
So what you been up to?
Nah. Hasn't. Not gonna lie, hasn't really been really good.
Yeah,
My girlfriend's in dire straits at her home state, and there's not much I can do about it. So I'm a little
that's rough,
kind of
man.
mad today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's rough. I lost another battery in my car. I have the worst luck with batteries. If it had happened 1 month earlier, it would have still been in warranty.
Hmm.
If it happened in May, it would have been warranty. It's in June, so I had to buy a new battery.
Yeah, they probably would have found some excuse to not give it granted to you anyway.
No, I mean they're good about it. It's just it's out of warranty, so what can you do?
Yep.
No, it just seems like every 3 or 4 years I got a battery go out. No one I've talked to has the trouble with car, and it's not this car because it was my previous car too. Just I don't know what it is. Because Pishko is an outspoken critic of sheriffs and a leftist. Well, I can be a pretty big critic of sheriffs too. Speaking of battery problems, we had to replace 2 batteries in our truck, and now we have to wait to get its alternator charged. Yeah, I was really, really glad it wasn't the alternator because those can be expensive. I mean, there are a couple of guys, they're just like half a mile down the road, have a garage, and they'll do it for like a third or a fourth of the price of the dealership. Yeah, and they'll do everything they can to save you. They were the ones who got my wheel bearings changed.
Mm.
So they just did it for what the dealer would have charged 3,000 for. They charged like 800 or 900, something like that. They're really good. And that, because I'm looking at EVs and all of the total cost of ownership with EVs is lower. And, not having to refuel, not having to get oil changes, that's very tempting. But aside from just the price of the vehicles, even the used ones, is the fact when something does go wrong, there aren't a lot of repair shops yet that can handle them. So like if you're in a Tesla and you have a bump up, you're taking it to a Tesla shop to get repaired because not a lot of other places know how to do those yet. Nothing in YouTube or Odyssey, but we are streaming.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry if I'm a little quiet. It's just, hey, all the crap that's been going on in the real world. It's just.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great year for me either. I mean, it's not bad like, you know, personally or emotionally or anything like that, but financially I've just been hit with one thing after another. Now I've got this just before Heather and I are going on vacation,
Yeah.
which of course we want to, go out to some nice restaurants, go see movies, things like that. Things that cost money. Yeah, just trying to get out from under, you know. And the prices of everything just haven't helped. Because like even like the cheapest battery was $200. And
Yeah,
my mom had to replace her battery last year, and it was like 130, 140. So that's just how much they've gone up. And that's what kind of infuriates me whenever Biden's team tweets out like, Bidenomics is going great, prices are back down. No, they're not. They're not going up as quickly, but that's not the same thing.
yeah.
Well, where are all the YouTube peeps? We normally have those in before anyone else.
No clue.
I mean, well, I know we're trying a new time slot here just to see. I was kind of hoping that would mean more people would be able to get in. People who couldn't normally join us because they're in a weird time zone.
Uh,
I have one thing to say about
hello?
LA's current governor, Jeff Landry. He's another Giovanni Gentile and Nikolai Kosaku. I don't know.
Uh, you can't pronounce their names. That means you're racist.
Yeah. It's French, though.
Yeah.
You can pronounce European names. No, show me an Icelandic name and I'm lost.
It's like that one time. It's like that one time when Steve Harvey was the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and all that, and he was doing a video about and one of the questions involved like this ancient Syrian city and all that, and he said the name, and then in the headpiece he's like, oh wait a minute, what's that? I said it wrong. Well, how the hell are you supposed to pronounce that? Because it was like it was like an ancient Syrian city, so it was like really complicated and
yeah.
Yeah.
Ceausescu. Okay. I know how you feel though, because North Carolina's Governor Roy Cooper is a wannabe Gavin Newsom, and when you're considering that Gavin Newsom is a wannabe Justin Trudeau, when your governor's a wannabe of a wannabe, it's pretty bad. Romanian communist dictator. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ceausescu. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Hey, do I have to go round people off on the street to get them in the chat?
Yeah.
Pass out the link to passersby. Come on. The chat's wide open. Say whatever you want.
Yeah, people, come on.
See, no, want to see, no. You. Well, we have one. Mr. No says Trudeau will likely be gone by 2025. Roy Cooper will definitely be gone because of term limits. But the guy who's running on the Democrat side is his Secretary of State. So we have a choice between a guy who's basically Roy Cooper's third term and the Republican is like this ultra, fundamentalist Christian nut bar. Fortunately, we have Mike Cross running as a libertarian, and he's pretty good.
That's good. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, I talked to so many Canadians who just do not like Trudeau.
Yeah.
Someone it looked like at all the G7 conference or whatever it was, and all of the political leaders there, and their approval ratings, and they all had approval ratings of like way below 50%.
Yeah.
I would vote for PPC, but no doubt they won't get a seat, unfortunately. Yeah, but when the other choices are just so bad that you don't want either one, it's either going to be third party or no vote at all. So what do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah.
And I forget the guy's name is Libertarian presidential nominee. I don't really know anything about him, but I've seen a couple of things since the nomination, and I don't know. Oh, yeah, I heard about this. Landry just signed a bill that puts the Ten Commandments in front of all public schools. Of course, he says, why not end compulsory education completely? Enough of forcing religion down our throats already. Yeah, even the religion of the state when it's not actually the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
If Chase Oliver, yeah, that's him. If I were one of the school, okay, I'll put up the Ten Commandments, all right, and I put up the Bill of Rights. That's what I would do. Those are the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court said directly that you cannot put up the Ten Commandments in schools. Unless they're going to figure getting that overturned with a more conservative court, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like I keep pointing out, Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett aren't actually conservatives, they're institutionalists.
Yeah.
So I don't know about that. That's going to be a tough one to get by.
Speaking of religion, you ever seen that old TV show that aired on Adult Swim called Moral Oral?
Nope.
Oh, you should check it out. It's awesome.
What is it?
Well, it's one of those like stop motion, things. It's actually done that way, and it's about this kid named Oral who lives in a town called Morrilton, and everyone there is a stereotypical fundamentalist Protestant and all that, and so much so that they don't even recognize, well, they claim to be an American city, but it's like a religious American city. Like no joke, like in their own school, they modify all the rules and all that, so it allows for their religious zealotry. Hmm. Like for instance, they added a verse to the Pledge of Allegiance where they're like, we're like one nation under God and to Jesus Christ who died on the cross for our sins with liberty and justice for most.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. But it's actually really good because it starts out as being one of those cliche, making fun of, Christianity, making fun of Christians, but it actually becomes kind of a serious one as the series went around because it's later revealed that a lot of the people in the town, they're actually severely flawed people and they really only use the religion to cover up their own insecurities, basically.
Well, that's how it usually is.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard some people say that the reason why religious zealots are so afraid of things like sex and all that is because it reminds them that they're living humans, and people like to think, it's like, oh no, humans are special. We're not animals. We're special.
Yeah, this is the same reason they oppose evolution.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where it is? Is it on Adult Swim?
Yeah. It gets really messed up though as the series goes on though, but it's good. But it's a good show. Yeah. The first couple episodes are stinkers though. You'll have to slog through them, but it gets good.
I'm not even sure where I can watch Adult Swim now because I don't have cable anymore. What streaming service is it on?
I was using a website called Watch Cartoon Online. It's
Uh, I've been watching Inside Job on Netflix a while back. Some people in the Discord were talking about it, so Heather and I started watching that. We're in season 2 right now.
I know South Park made another special. And it's about that new drug that can apparently slow down weight gain.
Oh yeah, the weight loss drug. We saw that one.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but
And what was it really? It was really. There's something weird about it because it didn't actually like. I forget how it works. It doesn't actually. It makes you lose weight by basically starving you.
yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
It's just
I
not
mean,
good.
yeah, believe it or not, like if like I can't remember the name of the drug in specific, but I remember reading somewhere saying that's not the first drug that's been proven the weight. There's actually plenty of drugs out there that genuinely do help you lose weight. The problem is that the side effects aren't worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the name of that one?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of how it works because once you learn how it works, it's like, why would anyone in their right mind want to do that?
People are strange.
I don't
And
know.
then
I'm
again, this
seeing a
is
whole bunch of like Orbicidal Lexatone, Retatrutide, and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, I forget exactly what it was called, and I'm not going to recognize it looking through that list.
Fighting Zenithian. Yeah, no. I saw a couple episodes of Mr. Pickles. I didn't like it.
Are they
You
still
probably
doing
don't.
Robot Chicken?
I think so.
I have to check it out because I haven't seen any of those in like a couple of years.
Yeah. I might get some hate, but I think the Robot Chicken Star Wars special is better than the Family Guy Star Wars special.
Yeah. Oh yeah, much
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. I think it's just because it does it in short bursts, like it makes fun of, individual scenes that are very memeable, whereas Family Guy tries to make the entire movie me and all that, but a lot of it is kind of stupid.
I haven't heard of King Star King. But it was like, 100 years ago, tapeworms were the thing for
Oh
losing
yeah.
weight, which are a parasite, and that's not
Yeah.
good. And it turns out the way people thought they worked is that the tapeworm ate the food instead of you, and then you poop out the tapeworm and all is good. No, it did it by making you sick.
Yeah. Not to mention, tapeworms lay eggs.
Well, and they actually eat so little, so even if that's the case, each tapeworm isn't really taking that much from you.
Yeah.
They do it by making you sick and making you poop a lot, and it wasn't good.
Yeah. And not to mention, I have seen videos on how they remove tapeworms. It's not pleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not deliberately infect yourself with a parasite. That seems
Yeah.
like a good general advice for life.
Yeah. The funny thing about tapeworm, it reminds me of this funny thing I saw was making fun of, the whole COVID thing and all that, and it shows a guy saying, "Hey, you doing much better? Oh yeah, I finally took some ivermectin for." Oh, you mentioned ivermectin. You're demonetized for my tapeworm. Oh, oops.
For your scabies, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which is what it's actually for.
Yeah, remember when we had a whole live stream cut off entirely just for mentioning it in
Yeah.
passing?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the joke. The joke is that you can't even mention it now, even if it's in reference to like what it was actually designed for, which is primarily anti-parasitical treatment.
And now it's come out that people like, I think Chris Cuomo was one, and a lot of the others who are like, it's horse dewormer, you're not a horse, don't do that. Turns out when a lot of them got sick, one of the things they took was ivermectin.
Yep.
And the sad thing is, at this point, we won't really ever know if it worked or not, because the best time to do actual clinical trials to try and figure that out is past. And while that was going on, just like with HCQ, there was just so much like, oh no, that's pseudoscience, don't do it. And it was like a reputational thing. You know, you just had a bad reputation if you even thought about it. That meant that they weren't actually doing, you know, the science, the studies to find that out.
Yep. Now it says Dr. Fauci said it's I am the science. You don't need to listen to anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going on the attack on him now, and they just in the Senate had kind of a revisit of the lab leak theory.
Mm.
But again, that trail might be too cold by now for us to ever know for sure.
Yeah.
Because although the zoonotic transfer was always the most likely explanation, just from the prior probability, you still got to investigate and find out. And it's not like lab leaks are like so unlikely they never have. They have happened several times.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very possible, and they do happen.
No, to play the devil's advocate here, contrary to what some conspiracy people say, COVID was not meant to be a biological weapon.
No, it was definitely not engineered to be a biological weapon, but the idea is they were studying how, because when you have both SARS and what was it? Oh, MERS. Yeah, SARS and MERS. And you actually had a couple of others, but those were the two big ones coming over from bats. Of course, scientists are going to want to know how they do. And so they kind of forced it to evolve in the lab to human cells. And the idea is that their protocols weren't all that good. It accidentally infected one of the scientists who walked out the door and infected everyone else.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like, you know, Fauci was in there with his, you know, red horns and ringing and saying, yes, let's make the evil virus. No, it was an accident. But
yeah.
they're,
And it did cause a lot of people to say, wait a minute, why are we it's like, why are we making these viruses to infect humans? Oh, so we can study how they mutate, and so we can prevent them from evolving and infecting humans.
right. Yeah. And so we can say, like, if one does, how can we protect it? What sort of antivirals can we develop? Things like that.
Mm.
Finding Zenithian also has some animes to recommend: Dirty Pair, City Hunter, Galgo 13, Dragon Half, and Dragon Pink. You're not really into anime.
Mm.
Our youngest is. But actually, she might be out of the anime phase. She was pretty much into the... lately, she's kind of been into the K-pop phase.
No, the Japanese failed to get her, so now the Koreans are trying.
Actually, a lot of anime is Korean. A lot of people don't realize that.
Mm. Well, I know a lot of the studios they use to animate animation, even not just anime, but also like Western cartoons. A lot of them are from Korea too.
Yeah. And they farm out a lot of the writing and everything else to Koreans. Because apparently the Korean language is close enough to Japanese that it's easy for a Korean to learn Japanese and vice versa, not like an English person trying to learn Japanese. There was something a while back. They were complaining about they were starting to use AI to translate the Japanese cartoons into English because an AI can't do it. An AI can't do the same kind of kind of put the human factor in there. And yeah, there are things like that. How do you translate puns and things like that? But people were picking out examples of these same translators and just a lot of the horrible work they did. And yeah, hand-drawn animation has always been that's getting better with AI too. They just released an AI model. I saw it on 2 Minute Papers. Whereas before the AI used kind of a warp flow model. So when you animate keyframes, and that's like every significant pose, every 5 or 10 frames or whatever. And then what you would do is you'd hand it off to people to do what's called tweening. And that's where you make all the frames in between and they're drawn by hand. Well, if you try to hand it over to a computer to do tweening, it kind of tries to do this morph thing. And it doesn't look all that good. But this new algorithm they were showing on 2 Minute Papers actually does a really nice job of actually making it look like it's been properly tweened from one to the other. But that's why, like so many animations you see, they kind of seem like they're cheap and they're 10 frames a second and stuff like that. It's because the tweening is what's expensive. But, having the AI, that means you could have, 24 frames a second or even 60 frames a second or whatever. And just do it with an AI. There's some really fucked up anime like Evangelion. I've heard of that. I've heard the name, actually. I don't really think I recall anything anyone was saying about it. But the name is at least familiar.
Yeah.
One Punch Man is the one exception.
Yeah.
And more from Finding Zenithian. He recommends New Cutie Honey. Oh, and yeah, the hand-drawn animation.
I also remember
something tells me the government policies contributed to that, or maybe unionization, because a lot of it was done in California and they're heavily unionized.
I remember seeing one funny parody of how some governments view anime where it shows where and it was that SpongeBob meme where it's like, have you seen this anime? And it shows Patrick, but he's labeled the government, and he goes, "Oh, CP, keep it away. Relax, sir. It's just a drawing." Yeah, because there's so many.
I've heard people online try and claim that all anime, no matter how pure it is really CP because all of the adult women look like girls, and even if they're fully dressed, they're sexualized and all this crap. Those are the people I worry about. Those are the people you should keep your kid away from.
Yeah. Yeah.
The ones who kind of see it in everything because they're seeing a reflection of themselves. That's how it works.
Yeah, like when Dee Snider destroyed Al Gore's ex-wife, when she accused their music of being satanic and it contained satanic perverse sexual messages, and he more or less said, "Listen, the only way you're going to see satanic perverted messages in there is if you're looking for them." So I think that says more about you than it does about us.
That whole thing was epic. I forget who the others were that were, but man, they just made Chipper Gore look like that high.
Yeah. I think it was it was John Denver and Frank Zappa.
Oh yeah, Zappa was the one who really got him.
Yeah.
I mean, Denver got in his punches too, but Frank Zappa was the one who just really.
Yeah. They assumed that because John Denver was a country boy, he'd be conservative. They assumed that Frank Zappa, because of his reputation, would be weird and people would find it funny. But all three of them actually knew what they were talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all really smart guys.
Yeah. I still have no clue why Frank Zappa was banned from SNL.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I've heard many stories, but the most likely story I've heard that honestly kind of makes sense given what we know about SNL is just because, despite the fact that he looked like a hippie from the 1960s, he actually didn't behave like one, and he actually was pretty clean cut.
Oh, he was a teetotaler. He didn't
Yeah,
drink. He didn't smoke. He didn't do any drugs.
yeah. I mean, we kind of saw that in the thing, too, with yeah, they're like, wow, so you don't drink? And he's like, nope. You don't smoke? No. You don't you don't have sex with prostitutes? No. Um, what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. No says the voice actor of Frylock from ATHF got fucked over on pay because he isn't part of the union because he lives in Atlanta, not LA.
Oh yeah.
Expunge Boy, I hate anime, but if you want to ban it because you sexualize it, you are the problem. And yeah, from Findings in Ithian, you'd be surprised at how many animators who are critical of unions. Michael Sporn, one of Richard Williams' animators who died from pancreatic cancer, is one example. I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just amazing how many rank and file people you talk to who actually do not like the union. They just don't get the
Yeah.
attention because the news media doesn't quote them or anything.
Yep.
Whole hysteria surrounding certain character designs is absurd. They're fictional characters after all. Yeah, you're seeing yourself reflected in them. That's how it works. And that's why they can be powerful, but that's also why. Because remember, I've told you this before. When I was growing up, it was Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah, those were what was corrupting your children.
And oh my God, the way they chopped them up in order to be allowed to show them on TV
Yeah.
was ridiculous.
I still find it funny. I don't know if they still did it, but they told Elmer Fudd that he can't use a gun anymore because that's violent, but he's allowed to use a scythe.
Yeah, the scythe thing is weird. Isn't that worse?
Yeah.
Trying to kill Bugs Bunny with a scythe? Hello, Ghost Dog.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're saying I can't shoot a rabbit, but I can chop it slowly limb from limb and let it bleed to death.
Elmer Fudd
Yeah,
always used the classic Joe Biden approved 12 gauge.
Yeah.
So he should have been fine. You're near the AR-15. Use yourself a 12 gauge. Go outside, fire 3 shots in the air. God, what an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe Biden, I did do that, and I still got arrested.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I'm just centering myself a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, contrary to what some people are saying, that's the real reason why crime is skyrocketing. It's not because we're defunding the police. It's because we're telling the police, oh yeah, see that guy robbing that bank over there? Don't arrest him, but that guy who's using his gun to defend his property, arrest him and throw him in jail. Yeah.
I say, speaking of Bugs Bunny, I recommend Steve Peck's Rabbit Habit from 1975. Tex Avery even thought it was funny. Okay, I didn't see that one. I'll have to check it out. But if the man thought it was funny. And there weren't many cartoons post 60s that he liked. And
Yeah,
even during the 60s, with the exception of like a couple of specials that Chuck Jones would do or something, he had basically said, yeah, animation is no longer what it was. It's dead. You've heard of the cancel cartoon movie Coyote versus Acme. Haven't heard of that.
Oh yeah, that was that movie. It was gonna be about Wile E. Coyote suing Acme for all the failed props he would use, and he tries to sue, but it got canceled due to licensing reasons. I think they couldn't get the copyrights.
Yeah, because Acme is a real company.
Mm.
A lot of people don't know that Acme is a real company.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had made the cartoons today, it would have been Amazon, except they probably wouldn't because of how litigious everything is. But yeah, Acme was basically the Amazon of the day.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah, it's always been a thing going around, even like pre-internet back in the Usenet days, about someone doing up something that looks like a lawyer's brief suing Acme for defective products and things like that, and
Mm.
going through and describing them specifically. Funny. There are several companies that use that name, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I brought it up before, but it reminds me of one video one moment because I watched Razor Fist a lot, even though I don't agree with all his points. But one that made me want to like talk to him was he was talking about why the public domain is ass, and he's like, look at the franchise Zorro from Legend of Zorro. How come nobody's done a video on that, even though it's in the public domain? And I'm just saying, because it doesn't work that way. Even if it's in the public domain, another company will come along and say, your film or story is ripping off our film version.
Well, because like if you can do a Winnie the Pooh movie because those characters are public domain and the books are public domain. But if you try to use the Disney designs, they'll come after you for
Yep.
using their character design. So
Oh
it's
yeah,
really
yeah,
complicated.
yeah,
You
like
can
what I
do
said.
like your own reimagined artwork of Winnie the Pooh, but you can't use the Disney design.
Yep. Yep. That's how it's always been, people.
Yeah, everyone's got to grab their bit. We need more Zorro movies. Zorro was great.
Yep.
And
But
the
yeah, the recent
Shadow. We need a proper Shadow movie where he like actually murders people.
yeah.
Yeah. Batman with some actual cojones. That's what the Shadow is.
Yep. Oh yeah, Razor Fist brings that a lot up in his films. Yep. Well, here's the thing, though. To be fair, is that contrary to popular belief, Batman wasn't necessarily supposed to rip off the Shadow. The reason why the first comic is that, according to Bill Finger, that was meant to be a test reel. It was meant to show, here's our character Batman. Here's how we envision him. Here's what he's gonna do. But Bob Kane went behind his back and said, "Oh yeah, this is the final finished form." Yeah, Bob Kane. Yeah, he's turns out doesn't deserve his reputation in the comic industry like he does.
He was certainly no Stan Lee.
Oh yeah.
Then he's trying to use the trademark loophole for Steamboat Willie. Yeah. The thing is, Steamboat Willie isn't even theirs. That was a previously existing story that they made the Mickey Mouse cartoon around.
Yeah, wasn't it originally a Charlie Chaplin short film?
I don't know if Chaplin did one. Buster Keaton did Steamboat Bill Jr., but it dates back before film. I don't remember if it was a book originally or what, but might have been a play. I don't remember. Finding Zenithian says, you've explained one major reason why I don't support Louisiana law enforcement, and they commit more crimes than all the gangs in New Orleans and Baton Rouge combined. Don't they all? The movies have it where the gang members have bribed the police and have them on the payroll. But I think just as often it was the case that, like, the leader of the crime mob was the sheriff or
Mm-hmm.
whoever.
Yep.
I said 3 years ago that if Lorenzo Music were alive today, no one in film and animation would hire him. Ditto from L. Blanc, Paul Frees, and Jack Mercer. I don't get why you would say that, though. Because, I mean, basically we have people like that today, like, Billy West and Maurice LaMarche. Tress MacNeille, if you want female voices. Kind of like on The Simpsons, I think half the male voices are done by either Harry Shearer or drawing a blank on the guy's name, Hank Azaria.
Mm.
Oh, I should bet it's up on the screen. Prior to Moon Landrio and Ernest Dutch Morial, New Orleans was run by the mob, basically. Yeah, that's nice. The one exception that sticks in my mind is the Dukes of Hazzard, where Boss Hogg was the commissioner and he was also the local crime boss.
Irony.
Yeah. Well, not irony, that's just how it was. My neighbor is friends with Harry Shearer, by the way.
Yeah, and earlier we were talking about Star Wars. I saw another funny parody about Star Wars one time, and it made fun of Return of the Jedi, and it said Luke just committed an act of transphobia in Return of the Jedi. It's like, oh, why? What'd he do? He dead named Darth Vader
Called him Anakin, yeah.
by calling him Anakin. You know what dead naming is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When you call a trans person by their previous name.
Yeah, by their birth name. If you meet a drag queen called Danielle and you find out her original name was David and you call her David, she goes, "Oh, you're." Yeah.
Like if you were to call Chelsea Manning Bradley.
Yeah. Like I don't think I agree with what you said. I don't think it was I don't think it, I think he had he always had gender dysphoria, but I like that one conspiracy theory that says that that Chelsea Manning, when she was Bradley Manning, he actually wasn't trans, but what happened was the CIA tortured him so badly it messed him up mentally.
Yeah, they did a lot of did a lot of crap down there in Guantanamo.
Yeah.
I mean, just the reports we've been able to find out are horrible, and that doesn't count all of the stuff that we haven't been able to find out about, that we don't know about.
Yeah, not trying to delegitimize him or anything.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't talk about it, of course, because she wants to put it all behind her, and I get that. But man,
because I mean, I've actually heard comparison, because I forgot their name, but there was like a British whistleblower who was who exposed some of the messed up stuff MI6 was doing, and he was arrested and tortured. And when he came back out there, his family said he pulled a complete 180 personality. First of all, he had gender dysphoria and became a woman. Then she began believing in aliens and all that, and his family thinks that deep down they did something to him that messed him up, because they say, because prior to that he didn't believe in that stuff, he was not trans, and now look at him.
Yep.
Yeah. Makes you
They
wonder, what did they
probably
do?
know a lot more than they're putting on about how things like gender dysphoria happen, and they
Yeah,
try to do that on purpose, I think.
yeah,
And
yeah,
finally, Zenithian points out that Ron DeSantis was once head of Gitmo.
mm. Yeah. Not to quote unquote delegitimize them, but some of the but like there's way too much censorship going on with like gender dysphoria and studying it.
Yeah.
Like the mentality is, nope, that's just how I am. End of discussion. Well, I think it would be better to, like, that's the thing I hate the most is like what happened to our sense of scientific curiosity. It's like we can't do that anymore because we might hurt people's feelings.
Well, and understanding how it happens is going to open up more ways to improving their quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah, by the SJW's logic, we never should have discovered the theory of evolution because that offended Christians.
No, Anakin was used in the original trilogy. He was given as Anakin in A New Hope, and then in I think it was Return of the Jedi.
Well, yeah, he was named,
Yeah.
but Vader himself was never called that name.
He was by
Only
Luke. Luke mentioned it to him, the name Anakin.
in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That was the point. That was the point. It was I mean, because the scene is when Luke said addresses him as father, and Darth Vader goes, "So you've accepted the truth?" And Luke goes, "I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father." And he immediately turns around and says, "That name no longer has any meaning to me."
Yep.
Yeah. Disney, why'd you have to ruin such a powerful character moment?
Mm.
Yeah.
Rowan Atkinson, the best way to fight hate speech is through more speech. And I also believe that the best way to beat bad science is through more science. Absolutely, yeah. Both
Yeah.
of those are true.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know if you ever brought it up, but so many people say, but we gotta punch Nazis because that's the only way to defeat them. You know what I want to say? There's there's um uh, there's three words that debunk this idea that you need to punch Nazis in order to fight them. Three words: beer hall putsch.
Yep.
Yeah, seriously, people. The Weimar Republic military did everything you said you're supposed to do to Nazis, and that
Didn't
didn't
work.
stop Hitler. Yeah. If anything, it gave them more attention.
Yep, it kind of made it seem like hey, just like what they're doing to Donald Trump now. How much support is he getting because of all these bogus legal actions against him and that just incredibly corrupt conviction of him? And then of course they turn around and say he's a convicted criminal. You wouldn't vote for and people see through it. But the problem is they're voting for Trump for that reason and not because they agree with his policies. JREF hasn't been the same since Randy died. I don't know. Most skeptics seem to have forgotten that.
Yeah.
It's hard to debate a smart person. It's damn near impossible to argue with a stupid person. True.
Yep. Yeah, the sad reality is that there's a lot of people out there where the creator of all things could explain why they're wrong, and they'd still find some explanation for why they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to make the prediction beforehand.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you try to show evidence for evolution to a creationist and they come back with, well, no, God just decided to do it that way for some reason.
Yeah. But why?
We cannot know the mind of God. God works in mysterious ways.
I still want to know. I still want to know why he did all that stuff to poor Job.
Because Satan double dog dared him.
Yeah.
That's exactly the reason.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, but God gave him back all the stuff for being faithful. Not the point.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he didn't really, because he allowed his wife to have more kids, but he didn't bring his old kids back to life.
Yeah, why didn't he do that?
He just killed them.
That's another thing too that I also want to point out is why didn't God snap his fingers and undo everything? He has the
Yep.
power to do that. Mm.
And I
That's the
really
one thing.
don't understand why, when Moses made the appeal to Pharaoh, God hardened his heart.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
Talk
thing that
about self-defeating.
yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I think I saw a parody of that one time. It's like the real reason Satan was exiled from heaven. What it shows God going, what, the Pharaoh's not going to let the Jews go? Why? Well, because Heavenly Lord, his heart was hardened. What? Who hardened his heart? I believe it was you. Well, I get out of here.
Sounds kind of like something Dark Matter 2525 would do.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on snowballs and shaved ice? Delicious. Love eating ice.
Hopefully, ones that are actually safe for human consumption, so not the stuff that grows on your from your gutters.
I'm in North Carolina. We don't get those.
Mm.
Nope, we got fancy things called freezers. All the modern technology.
Hmm. So Satan double dog dared him to. Ha! Fortunately for me, I'm immune to double dog dares, and you want to know why? Because I know what comes after a triple dog dare.
What
And if you
what comes after a triple dog dare?
quadruple dog dare, then quintuple dog dare, then
Quintuple.
sextuple dog dare, then heptuple dog dare, then octuple dog dare, then ninetuple dog dare, then dectuple dog dare.
I dodecatuple dog dare you.
Yeah,
I triskadecatuple dog dare you.
yeah. It's
Oh,
funny, little
Apple
kid.
Eater. Hold on. New guy in Rumble. Apple Eater with Rome. Hey, guys, new to the party. What are y'all spurging out about? Oh, this and that.
Hmm.
Right now, we were going over all of the ways to dog dare people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny how little kid logic works, though. It's like, well, you know what? I triple dog dare, so now you gotta do it. Why? Because you have to. That's the rules.
That's playground rules. You can't go against them.
Yep.
It's a serious breach of playground etiquette when you skip the double dog dare and go to the triple dog dare.
Yep.
That's serious. They're in uncharted territory there.
Mm.
See who gets that reference.
That's the Christmas.
A
That's the
Christmas
Christmas
story,
story.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The narration was just perfect throughout that whole movie of explaining the mindset of an 8-year-old boy.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, fudge. But I didn't say fudge. I said the big one.
Where did you hear that word? Now I had heard my old man use that word 8
Yeah.
times a day. My dad used profanity the way a painter would use a brush.
Yeah.
But I chickened out, he said, his friend.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel
Why do
sorry for that
playground
poor.
rules sound like something the government would do? Because they haven't matured past that.
Yep. like I've never had kids before, but you know it's one game that I will never let my kids play, and I will actually punish them if they do that. The whole thing about that whole jinx thing, where if you're jinxed, you can't talk unless I release you to us. I'm gonna be like, nope, I'm
Yeah.
interfering. That's not allowed.
I heard you don't need plutonium or uranium for nuclear fuel for power plants. Is that true? You can make power plants that run on thorium. I mean, theoretically, you should be able to run a power plant on any radiation source that's higher than background. It's just, do we have the technology to do it? But we do have the technology for thorium. There are a couple of places that are running that. I don't know if anyone has implemented it at scale, but there are definitely test reactors out there actually making electricity. And that's good because you avoid all of the escalation arguments, and thorium is more plentiful and things like that. Is thorium more stable? I don't think it's any more or less stable. I think it's a little harder to use, but on the other hand, it's cheaper. They're basically already pulling it out of the ground for free. So I have a lot of kids. Don't be so quick to blow off the power of the jinx. Yeah, or the power of the game. Let's see who can stay silent the longest.
Mm. Mm.
But thorium,
Yeah,
the way thorium, because the uranium in a reactor, the U-238 absorbs a neutron. A couple of things happen. It goes to neptunium 238 and then plutonium 238, and the plutonium is one of the things you have to worry about. The thorium, it's thorium. God, I am not a nuclear physicist. Thorium 233, I think, absorbs, or 232. It might be 232, absorbs the neutron, becomes thorium 233, turns into uranium 233, which fizzles directly. So you don't go up into the transuranics. So you don't have the same problem with waste and everything else. You have the lower level waste, but you don't have the transuranics.
Transuranic sounds like a bladder problem.
It just means any element higher than uranium. So neptunium, plutonium, americium, all of those. Yeah, I mean, the reactors they are capable of making, if more people had an awareness of it, they'd be demanding that. It's like, wait a minute, you mean that we can mass produce, we know how to do a thing where you just put it on site, leave it there, it generates power, and the so-called high-level wastes, the neptunium, plutonium, americium, and all of that, it uses those as power too, and you're just left over with the low-level waste, and then they come and take it back to the factory and put a new one in, and that's all you have to do, and it's perfectly safe and can't melt down, and let's do that. So the waste is more managed. But yeah, the waste is all about the half-life, because when they talk about the waste having to last for 250,000 years, that's what they're talking about, the plutonium and the other transuranics, because of the longer half-life. The lower level wastes will drop below background radiation in 300 years. The general rule of thumb is 7 to 10 half-lives, and it's pretty much gone. Mathematically, it's never gone because it's going down by half and down by half and down by half, but it gets so low that who cares? But I mean, even then, like the ideas people have about nuclear waste, like on The Simpsons, the glowing green liquid and stuff like that, that's not what the waste is. You baking a yellow cake? Yeah, well, yellow cake is good.
Mm.
And so is
Especially with
lemon
chocolate.
pound cake.
Especially with chocolate frosting.
No, they're contained securely despite the nonsense I see on TV. Yeah, I mean, you got that huge containment building they're in, and you can't just walk into that thing. It's a whole process. As we all know, anything that has the word nuclear means kaboom. Yep.
Mm. Mm. Yep. And everyone knows. Yep, everyone knows if you so much as sneeze at a nuclear reactor, it goes boom, and then we all die because reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they are concerned about that, which is the big reason why you have to suit up when you're handling yellow cake or uranium pellets. You could, as long as it's for, just a minute or so, you could hold a uranium pellet in your hand and be fine. They're trying to keep you from contaminating the uranium because they don't want dirt and oils from your skin on it, because that can cause all sorts of problems. So, has to be built by water for cooling, I assume. It usually is. It doesn't have to be. There are designs that use all sorts of different things for cooling, like sodium cooled reactors. That's one way they can do fast reactors that go ahead and burn all the transuranics, and they can make it self-contained in an SMR, a small modular reactor that they just, out with the old, in with the new, and they're made in factories. Well, if it's not glowing, how do you know it's still good? Hey, good point there. Try making a dough birch cake sometime. Go ahead and hold that pellet. Tell me how your thyroid works after a couple of years. Actually, the thyroid problems are because of the radioactive potassium that you usually get. Like they're worried about that after Fukushima, after Chernobyl. When you get some of those waste products into the environment, it's the radioactive. I'm sorry, not the potassium. The iodine that you're worried about with your thyroid. Because what happens is your body absorbs the radioactive iodine, and then your thyroid absorbs the iodine. And that's why they give you the KI pills. That's basically like a megadose of iodine, so that it's absorbed by your thyroid instead of the waste. Radiation is a bitch, but it's not the bitch that everyone makes it out to be. It's not that much of a bitch.
Yeah.
If you
Because like
handle it safely and do everything right, then.
And like we said, as shocking as it is to believe, everything is radioactive to a degree.
You are radioactive.
Yeah.
You enjoy
Yeah.
bananas are radioactive.
Yeah. Yeah, so that joke about the 1950s horror film, The Radioactive Man, it's like, the radioactive man, you mean like 99% of all humans on Earth?
Yeah, overexposure is bad. Overexposure is
Yeah.
really bad. If you're lucky, it kills you quickly. Otherwise, it kills you slowly and really, really, really horribly. But those are risks that, people who are informed know how to manage. It's the rule of poison. It's the dosage, not the material itself. Like I said earlier when we were talking about the Windsor, the guy who ate uranium, it's about both amount and time of exposure. They usually measure it in microsieverts per hour. So both the level and the amount of time you're exposed to it. Tell that to my hopes from slowly dying from God. I'm sorry to hear that. It's a nasty thing, radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
Really, really nasty. You got to share with us how that happened. That would be. Because believe it or not, Well, someone was handling it wrong if he got that, because believe it or not, the thing we have to worry about the most has nothing to do with nuclear energy. It's the disposal sites from making nuclear weapons.
Mm.
Those are the ones that are really dangerous. And they didn't have quite the same culture of safety as they do in nuclear power plants.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, the U.S. military, its philosophy towards disposing of nuclear waste was just throw it out back.
Oh yeah.
Like, if I recall correctly, that's actually how Area 51 got exposed to the public. It got exposed because a lot of the people that were working on the base were becoming sick, and it was discovered that it was due to exposure to radioactive and hazardous chemicals that they were using in experimental jet fuel.
That sounds like she says he's retired weapons troop, yellow line on the floor. That's the protection barrier. Yeah, that's not the way you do it. That's not the way you're supposed to do it. And that's
Mm,
why, I mean, Chernobyl was bad because they didn't have a containment building. And a lot
yeah.
of people, especially the first responders, got radiation poisoning from that. But Fukushima and 3 Mile Island, there hasn't been a single recorded case of anyone having radiation exposure problems from those.
I
One
still find
person died from the Fukushima disaster, but that was because of a crane accident.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't let a yellow line be your protection barrier from radiation. And it also depends on what happened. Like, did you get a dose of radiation, or did you get contaminated with radioactive material that's now on or in your body and is just going to keep putting it out and putting it out? But
That thing you said, that whole thing we said about radiation, all that. That's another reason why I find it so funny that there's all those people that are like, oh, but nuclear energy isn't natural. It's like, what do you mean? Nuclear energy is the core principle of the universe.
yep, it powers the
Ev-
sun, it powers the Earth's core.
yeah, yeah. Literally, all of existence ad infinitum is here because of nuclear energy.
All of our energy is nuclear. At one point or another, we either get it from the sun, solar fusion energy, or if you're going geothermal, that's nuclear as well. That's nuclear fission.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have no clue where people are getting this idea that nuclear energy is unnatural.
My
Yeah, Earth is
history teacher was on 3 Mile Island cleanup. He's still alive and healthy as a horse. Yeah, no one was harmed at 3 Mile. Well, investors were harmed. That's what they always say.
yeah,
The only people harmed by 3 Mile Island were investors.
yeah.
Luckily, those running that base have learned their lesson. I've heard that only 2 people died from the original Chernobyl explosion. Is that true? I'm not sure if that's true or not. I know most of the deaths were from radiation exposure from like immediately after.
Mm, mm. Or another famous example of the overblown hatred of nuclear energy, and this relates to Chernobyl, is the so-called elephant's foot. That molten,
Yeah.
that molten pile, and everyone says it's so radioactive. Radioactive. If you even look at it, you'll die. And there's people, and and but yet there's actual videos of it from when it was still young and still quote unquote fresh. There's people surrounding it wearing only bare minimal equipment, and guess what? They're all alive and healthy.
Yeah, I mean, if you know the right equipment to wear and the distance, stay from it, and of course,
Mm.
so much time has passed now, it's even safer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, apparently the scientist who was actually handling the elephant's foot and all that, he's still alive today and has no long-term health consequences. And apparently they asked him, how did you not get, radiation sickness or anything? And he didn't know, so he just jokingly replied, it's communist radiation, best radiation ever. Yeah, I think he was just joking them though, because
Yeah.
like
Could a warhead be refitted to a power source? Yeah. Yeah, you would de-enrich it. That's easier than enriching it. Because in warheads, they're enriched to like 90% U-235, and you only need like 3 to 5% for a nuclear reactor, or for some, or for medical reactors or things like that, is 20%. It's like that video of Tom Hartman's that I debunked when he was talking about asbestos, and he was trying to blame the free market for it, when, as I pointed out, it was government handling of asbestos that caused the problems for most people.
Oh,
including
yeah,
the people he mentioned.
Oh.
Including his own father. Worked at the motor pool. Well, there you go. Well, there's your problem. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was the father of Iran's nuclear program. It's always the government. Very true, Apple Eater. Very true. No one in the Odyssey chat, but the Rumble and YouTube chats are going.
Oh man, this whole thing about nuclear energy being and all that reminds me of this. I think it was like a Velociraptor parody where it shows Velociraptor going. So solar power means powered by the sun, but the sun was created by nuclear energy. Does that mean solar power is nuclear?
Indirectly, yeah. And people say, don't use nuclear, use geothermal. Well, where do you think geothermal comes from? Nuclear material in the Earth's core. When we play the game of what has the government done this time, it's more like guessing what the government...
Never have I ever, slept with someone while doing this. And Quagmire's like, oh, come on! Yeah. Imagine that, but with the government. Yeah.
Yep.
Never have I ever spent taxpayers' dollars on my niece's birthday party. Oh, come on! Go. Never have I ever spent money to train prostitutes in China to drink responsibly. Oh, come on! No joke, the government actually did that one time. The U.S. government. Yeah. Probably one of the silliest ones ever was there was apparently the government spent research to find out to discover what, and the point of the research was why do prostitutes engage in risky sexual behavior when they're drunk and on drugs? Gee, I don't know why. Though I have heard that, the reason why we hear stories like that is because the sad reality is that I've heard from some people from inside that it's kind of well known that in a lot of colleges and all that, a lot of the research they do is bullcrap, but the sad reality is that's the only way you get money, there's literally research projects that are put in place for the sole purpose of just because we gotta be doing something.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, chat's slowing down on us, both of them. Just looking over to make sure there's nothing I missed. Fighting Zenithian says, I'll be honest on Donald Trump. He was better than Obama and Biden, but that isn't saying much. Yeah, it's a low bar.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we made this joke before. It's like, it's that old joke. It's like George W. Bush. He was terrible, but at least he wasn't as bad as Clinton. Bill Clinton, he was horrible, but at least he wasn't as bad as George H.W. Bush. George H. Nah, he was better than Ronald. He was better than Ronald Reagan. Reagan, nah, he was better than Carter.
We keep saying that, and yet things keep getting worse.
Yep. Yep.
The longer you keep voting for the lesser of two evils, so many people are looking like Trump versus Biden. Why is that our choice? How did we get here? And I just say decades and decades of voting for the lesser of two evils.
Yep. Yep. We've allowed a monopoly of two powerful political parties that don't want to give it up now.
Yep. Voting for the lesser evil just gets you more evil.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking of voting for Trump because he's the lesser evil, ask yourself, are you just helping to perpetuate that?
It reminds me of something I've heard one person say one time. It says voting for the lesser of two evils. It's like this. That's like saying, okay, you've got two options. You either have and both of them involve you having to eat a bucket of poop. Bucket of poop. The most evil person will make you eat a bucket of poop, but the lesser of the two evils will still make you eat it, but he'll give you a glass of water to wash it down with. That's basically what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pick two evils, pick your poison, same message. Then how do we go about voting better people in if where are now both sides are equally stubborn and we've had enough of it? I mean, it's a good question because, vote third party, vote your conscience, but the fact of the matter is they've got it rigged. Oh yeah, great Penn Jillette quote from Finding Zenithian. The lesser of two evils is still evil, and the enemy of my enemy is not my friend.
Yeah. What happened to you, Penn?
That's what he says. It's sad what happened to him lately, yeah.
Yeah, he went on that vegan diet to lose weight and he's never been the same since.
I think it's just I think people underestimate, because one of the things Penn claims about the diet is it works because there's no actual need for human protein as far as nutrients are concerned. Well, that's true when you're just talking about keeping your body alive, but the reason why we have this big brain is because we ate meats and got a lot of protein. And you really need proteins to keep your brain going. And while it's true that your body can make proteins if you get enough amino acids, but still the most efficient way is getting if you were to only get like the USDA recommended daily allowance of all the vitamins and minerals and everything else, and then enough calories to keep you going. I mean, biologically, you would stay going, but your quality of life would be down the tube.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like barely keeping yourself from starving type of thing. But so many other things, like how many prebiotic and probiotic foods you get. I think a lot of that's underestimated. I think, like we were talking about earlier with the raw milk thing, if we could have some more studies on people who actually take raw milk, when you pasteurize milk, yes, you're losing contaminants, and that's good. And that's why, but if you have the choice of drinking raw milk, yeah, you're taking a risk with the contaminants. But what kind of benefit is there from it? You're like not allowed to even discuss that, apparently. But what if some of the things that get killed when when you pasteurize the milk are things that are going to help you a lot because of their bioactivity. So is there no point in voting them? Well, that's what some people say. I mean, yeah. And everyone's talking about 2020. They rigged take a look. 2020 was just kind of a culmination of everything they had been practicing up for decades before then. They've always known. They've always known how to rig an election. And so Trump's campaign cry this year is get so many people to vote that even they can't rig it. We'll have to see how well that works, I guess. Because they're going to try to. You know they're going to try to.
Yeah, they'll find a way to do it.
I mean, they used COVID as an excuse for a lot of it. They don't have that this year. My nickname for the CIA is the completely incompetent agency. Yeah.
Mm.
What, you think that someone would cheat to get the most powerful position in the world? Yeah. Yeah, why would they spend hundreds of millions of dollars to get a job that pays what, $200,000 a year or something? I forget how much the president gets paid, but yeah.
Mm. Some people are saying we should do that. We should we should make it so that politicians their pay is only is the median income of the average American.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in favor of that, but I also think that's the pay is not why they do it. They get things other than that.
They do it for the power, you know. I mean, because like especially like U.S. senators, they get so much benefits, you know.
Well, it even looked like how much Nancy Pelosi is able to, manipulate the stock market and do all sorts of insider trades and things that will be illegal for anyone else to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't do insider trading. That's bad. And besides, it prevents us from doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll try every way they can.
I'm not gonna lie though, I never understood why insider trading is seen as a bad thing either.
Well, because there's a couple things that get conflated. Insider trading, the things they keep screeching about and stopping people doing is just like you're a corporate insider and you just decide to sell your own stock. But the kind of thing that the insider trading that the really illegal thing, the stuff that's actually have a law passed against it, because there's no law against selling your own stock if you're an executive. But the thing that there's a law against, something that Nancy Pelosi was doing, is having people in corporations feeding her information that she's not supposed to have so that she can do that. Actually trading in the information itself. Findings in Nithian says, I'd also cap the pay of all public sector employees, especially judges, prosecutors, and sheriffs. Hugo Holland in Louisiana makes over $200,000 a year.
No, again, as you said, they don't do this for the money, they do it for the power,
Contrary to what the Times-Picayune and LA Illuminator say, teachers are not underpaid. Yeah, and in North Carolina, teachers are paid about the same as surgeons.
Yeah.
Not that you know that from the political rhetoric.
Yep.
It's not about the money, Batman. It's about sending a message.
Yeah. I hate it when the judge uses that too. Yeah, I'm gonna set an example of you. That means you're not acting in good faith. You're doing it
No.
because you want someone to pay.
Yeah, they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
They're not supposed
Yeah.
to set an example. They're not supposed to, send messages or anything else. They're supposed to judge guilt or innocence and sentence accordingly. I did meet Britt Gandolfi, who was running against Beth Mizzle, the moron who wants to ban porn on college campuses. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah. I wonder when politicians are gonna realize that their prohibition doesn't work. God damn it! How come every time we try to ban something, a black market pops up and provides the thing we just banned?
And how come every time we try to get rid of naughty stuff, things stop working? Stable Diffusion 3.
Yeah.
It's like we were told in art class. If you can't draw a nude figure, you can't draw a clothed figure. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the version 3 of Stable Diffusion, the AI image generator, they decided that for safety apparently means no nudie pics, that they were going to go into the model after it was all trained and everything, but they were going to put in things to alter the weights to stop the generation of nude images. And so just look at what they've gotten by typing like woman lying on the grass, and it's just this deformed monstrosity that doesn't even resemble a human. But to do dog lying on grass, it does the dog fine. I put Mizzle on my list of biggest dipshits of 2022, a list that also includes the CCP, Herschel Walker, and running with scissors of Postal to infamy.
Yeah, I've never taken an art class, but I've seen that apparently when you take art classes, a common thing they always do when they teach you, especially teaching you how to draw humans, is they always show you, here's a nude man and here's a nude woman, here's how you draw them, because you need to be able to at least get like the outline or something of that.
And then at least once they'll have a nude model come in and pose and you draw them.
Because you have to be able to draw a human naked, because you need, like I said, you need that underlying framework to know, okay, when I draw this person in clothing or in action, here's how it would interact.
A clothed figure is a naked figure with clothes draped over it. And you gotta know how that happens. And that's what they did. They crippled SD3 by taking out its knowledge of basically of human anatomy.
Yep.
And so you get women with upside down faces and 3 stubby legs.
Yep.
And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not. That's an actual example. Go look it up. Could just accept that nudity is a natural thing, and that nudity and pornography have been a part of art since prehistory. Not like those, stuff shirt, art academics is like, oh, you see all these figures with the clearly defined their genitalia. See, that was their fertility gods and goddesses, and they made those so that the rains would come and the crops would grow. Shut up! It was their porn. Now you see this phallus here. It represents the gods that made the crops grow and the seasons and the turns of everything. Yeah, you notice how it's kind of smoother at that one end, like it's been worn down a lot. I think it had a little more practical use than what you're thinking.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And yep, that's the Paleolithic era. They had those.
yep.
People have not really changed. Oh no, boobies and butts. Yeah.
Yeah.
The war on porn is insane, and it isn't just the religious right waging it. They're also leftists supporting criminalizing it too. Yeah. They just do it for different reasons. But yeah, they're trying to do the same thing. You know, they're complaining about all the porn blocks, statewide porn blocks in like Texas and a couple other states. Well, California's doing it. North Carolina just did it.
Yeah, the left. Yeah, the left hates sex and porn, unless one participant member of the party is doing it against their will and they're under the age of 12. Yeah.
Oh God, no! They're some of the worst censors.
Oh yeah.
One of the worst ones are on the left. Well, we mentioned Tipper Gore earlier. Oh God, I don't even want to imagine that, Zenithian.
What do you say?
The one example involves a 6-sex act between Obama and Romney.
Oh yeah. Yeah, reminds me of that one South Park episode where they did that fan art of tweaking Craig, and I like how there was like a comment in a scene of the episode on YouTube where it says, "See, this thing teaches you everything to know that listen, if you're gay, you should not be ashamed for being gay because you can't control it. Who is straight and gay is dependent on the fan art of Asian girls."
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just so funny that, even though it's well established in many episodes, both before and during that Craig and Shweek are not gay, but they somehow psychologically convince themselves to become gay for the sake of the fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can do that,
You can psychologically convince yourself of anything. It's probably not going to last, but
yeah. Yeah, that's why, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna invalidate any people, but it kind of reminds me, I'm a little suspicious that some of these non-binary/trans people who when they tell me their life story, they're like, well, I was depressed and sad and I was questioning myself, and then I met this person and they taught me that I was gay or non-binary, and I'm like, are you sure you came to that conclusion? It wasn't the person you're hanging out with?
Expunge Boy says W stream. Is something wrong with the stream on YouTube? Is it still going?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who Karai from Angel Sanctuary is. I guess this is the Rule 34 edition. Oh, it means good stream. Okay, thank you. Yep, this is the Rule 34 live stream, I guess. We'll see if we get demonetized. It seemed like things were improving so much, like between the 90s and up through the aughties. And then all of a sudden you had that, basically the rise of the woke left.
Yep.
Is where it all started sliding back. And even the right was chilling out about it, and now the right's getting worse about it now.
And I think there's a little bit of truth when people are saying, that we're actually getting a lot more censorship lately, because I used to watch a lot of old movies and some of that old stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, I've seen a lot of old, independent films that were released, in the public theaters theaters, like some of them are horror and some of them are like not, and they have like full and they have like very graphic nude scenes and all that and violence and I looked it up. It's like, oh, this film must have been rated X. What? It was rated R. Hmm.
Well, long back before there were ratings, you had the Hayes Office. That started in, I think, 1932. You look at a lot of those pre-code movies, and they were a lot more loose about that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the government said, well, we're going to enforce that now. We're going to make it so everyone, has to obey this law code. And what happened is that people stopped watching American movies, but French and British films skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically, the Hayes Office was independent and not of the government, but they were behind it.
Oh yeah.
They were basically a state actor.
Yeah. Yeah, the music industry did something that the film industry was too cowardly to do. They fought back. In fact, going back to what we were saying about that, that's actually what ultimately won them the case was that they pointed it out. Using all that the government was saying, well, if the music industry doesn't regulate itself, we might have to get involved. And I don't know who it was basically pointed out. So basically, you're saying that if we don't self-regulate, you're gonna completely violate the Constitution and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that was always the lie about movie ratings because the MPAA always said, well, if we don't do those ratings, then the government's going to censor us. But the government can't because of the First Amendment.
Yeah.
It's an
Nor
excuse.
should it. Yeah.
They're moral busybodies looking for an excuse.
Yeah.
And they found a way to get power over it while technically say, oh, well, no, we're not of the government. We're a private thing.
Yeah. That's why I agree. We need to have that thing in the amendment that says that if a private organization is doing something because the government is pressuring them to do it, then they're a state actor and they have to follow the Constitution.
Well, the Supreme Court said that.
Yep.
We just need them to start enforcing it.
Yep.
And hopefully cases like Missouri v. Biden will solidify that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is why we need to get more. This is why we need to get more Supreme Court justices. You know what I want to ask some of those Democrats? Okay, what's going to happen in the future if we get an overwhelming majority conservative, SCOTUS then, and it becomes harder for you guys to replace them with Democrats members?
Yeah, Mad
Yeah.
TV was definitely better than SNL in the late 90s.
Yeah.
SNL hasn't been funny in so many years.
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be funny, but now they're losing it, Yeah, you know what's one misconception about SNL though, and this actually surprised me is that there's a lot of people that say that Chevy Chase was fired because he was offensive and all that. No, apparently that wasn't a problem. They actually liked his offensive humor, except with one exception. The reason why he was fired was because he was beating people up.
I'm just going to say it. I never thought he was that funny.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I've heard
he's made funny movies,
Yeah.
but that's because of, everything else in the movie being funny and the writing and everything hasn't really been because of him.
Yeah.
John Lovitz is funny. I don't know his opinion on Israel, though.
Yeah. I've
What's your take on this saying? In an argument, choosing between being right or being kind, choose kindness. Well, if you're not being right, how are you being kind? Lies are not kindness.
Yeah, lies are not kindness unless you live in Oceania.
SCTV was great. Yeah, I should probably put Finding Zens up on the screen. The stuff he's been saying. No one on Odyssey. I think the only people we've ever had on Odyssey are the ones that were just trying to spam everything. I don't know what it is about Odyssey or is not.
Spam. There's a whole bunch that I don't know if it's a new trend, but there's been a lot of videos like uploaded on the internet lately where it's like how to make this out of spam, how to make a spam sandwich. Hmm. Yeah, spam, aka the original bachelor chow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people your age saying, your age, like people who are like in their 50s and 60s. They said, "Yep, today college kids eat Easy Mac and ramen noodles. When I was a college kid, it was spam. It was spam and raisins."
I never cared for potted meat.
Yeah.
I wonder if there ever be a site that can actually compete with YouTube. We can hope. Best of luck to Rumble, and we'll see what happens with Odyssey after they go over to Arweave. Hopefully that'll be a big shot in the arm for them. Chances are YouTube will be obsolete before that happens. How do you see YouTube becoming obsolete? Finding Zen. SNL needs new competitors. Newgrounds had a couple of competitors in the aughts. TX Mafia and Camp North came to mind. No one just does good sketch comedy anymore. It's like a lost art. Oh, you mean replaced by another app? Yeah. But which app? And I mean, that's the thing. How are Odyssey or Rumble or whoever going to displace YouTube? I don't think it's going to work just by trying to become a clone of YouTube or like YouTube plus free speech or anything like that. I think you kind of need the killer app thing to drive people to it. What's your take on YouTube versus ad block war? Man, YouTube's getting desperate. Everyone's complaining about it. I'm tempted to kind of pop the cork because, yeah, it means we're winning. If YouTube is having to go to those links, we're winning. There are so many better ways to monetize with ads than the way YouTube is doing. I mean, I hate that BitTube went the way it did because the developers just, anyway, less said the better. But they had this idea that would work really nicely. Like you'd make a commercial and you'd say, hey, does anyone want to show this commercial in your video? And then you as a content creator would say, hey, yeah, I'd like to. They'd say, well, I don't like your channel, or I do like your channel, and put it in yours. And so it would be like an agreement, between, and you might have like a open-ended agreement and allow whatever, or you might be more picky. But then you would say, okay, right here, put a 30-second ad or whatever. And the system would just put it there in your video. I notice YouTube videos are constantly stop loading. Yep, I noticed the same thing. And I got a 1 gigabit connection going out. Well, coming in, actually uploading and stuff. But the downloading, actually watching the videos, yep. Lots of stopping loading and I like Razor Fist to write sketch comedy just to see the kinds of chaos he'd come up with.
I mean, you got to give Razorfist some credit, even if you don't agree with him. The guy's funny.
He is funny. He is really funny. He
Yeah.
understands comedy.
And I like all those funny, you know, allegories and synonyms he does when describing something. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's like they're more nervous than Joe Biden at a Girl Scout meeting with proper parental supervision. Yeah, I forgot like who he was referencing, but I remember him hearing him say something like that. Although thanks to Razor Fist, I can now no longer laugh at you know, Michael Jackson jokes anymore, because I watched this documentary series he did on him, and they really screwed over Michael.
They did.
Yeah.
They absolutely did. Razor Fist is 100% right on that.
Yeah. Although one scene I like from that documentary, when he exposed, you know, the myth that, you know, Michael Jackson liked to do it with children and all that, and you know, there was an interview with Macaulay Culkin, and it's like, yeah, but there's many testimonies that Michael Jackson, you know, would sleep in the same room, you know, as some of the boys he invited. He's like, yeah, because Michael Jackson's rich, and his room is two stories.
Well, and also mentally, he was kind of like one of the boys, and that was the thing they were trying to say, like, because, you know, apparently the place was like a kid's dream. It was like everything Disney should be. And they were saying, well, that means he was grooming the kids. And like, no, that's not what pedophiles decorate when they're grooming kids.
Yeah.
They don't make them look like playrooms.
Yeah. Yeah, they make you read they make you read pornography under the guise of educational books, you know.
Yeah, Finding Zen says, I'm sick of Jackson jokes. It's the same unfunny, tired joke ditto for O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
And that's something with all the rich comedy material that Donald Trump, you know, could inspire. All SNL could come up with was yet another joke about his hair, yet another joke about the way he talks, you know. And it was just the same, you know, 3 tired jokes over and over again. Because his father's exploitable asshole who didn't let him live in childhood. Yep. I've heard it said he spent his adult life trying to regain the childhood his father stole from him.
Oh yeah, because I mean, people fail to realize the Jackson 5, if I recall correctly, they had a pretty tough life, because their dad was like really abusive to them. He was their manager, and he was mean, from what I remember.
And if you want to know why Michael Jackson has a high-pitched voice, it's because his dad shot him up with hormones to stop his voice from changing. Because he was that $1 million voice of the Jackson 5. Couldn't have it go changing. Yeah, it's a wonder they all aren't messed up, but at least the others seem to have, you know, somewhat normal lives, normal mentalities. But Michael, man, he just messed him up for life.
Yep.
All right, we're going 5 minutes over, but we started 5 minutes late, so that's probably good. This is probably a good time to leave it off. Any parting thoughts or anything?
No, I'm good.
All right, well, we actually at least got some more chat activity at this time slot. We'll have to see. Oh, hold on a second. Joe Jackson will make John Cristofalusi of Ren and Stimpy seem like a 6th grade bully in comparison. Yeah. And thanks, guys. Thanks, Expunged and Mr. No and Ray Mia, creator for Hire. I know I mispronounced that name. I'm sorry, I mispronounced names. And then Fighting Zenithian, and who was the other one? Apple Eater with Rome over in the Rumble chat. Thank you all so much for joining in. Remember, please donate .bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. We'll see you till next time. Stay strong and be free.